Folks, while we're still in the middle of the doldrums known as the NBA offseason, there are some interesting things that happened a few days ago, more specifically an interview with Jonathan Kuminga, where he touched on a lot of subjects. He talked about his relationship with Steve Kerr. He talked about the development of his three-point shot. He revealed which position on the court is a natural fit for him. He discussed his contract situation, and I'm going to play sound of all of that. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Adrian Wojnarowski and the drama. Yes, there was drama. There was an actual power struggle, this at least according to Dan Le Batard, which led to him leaving the Disney Channel, aka ESPN. We're going to talk about that. And there is a palpable excitement brewing with the Golden State Warriors. Training camp is just around the corner. Yours truly is going to be at Media Day. Hopefully, I'm going to have a bunch of interviews with players, coaches, execs to bring on the program. But for now, let's get into it. It's the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Let's go!
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. Cause I get what I want and I like what I see.
Back at it on a Monday. The worst day ever. We should have had like a Monday before. Outrageous. Hey, welcome to the Golden Days. I am your host, Cyrus Saatsaz. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at Dog Wild. I'm over on Elon's cesspool of an excuse for a social media platform at Surf Journalist, and the program is available on all social media platforms at Golden Days Pod. Today's episode is brought to you by the official sponsor of Golden Days, and that's BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. That game yesterday sucked. I even got a bunch of heat on Threads because I had the audacity of criticizing Brock Purdy a little bit. I love the kid, and he very well could be the future of the 49ers. But 2 straight third downs, he failed to convert on the final 2 drives of the game. You got to convert those if you want to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. You got to convert those to win these annoyingly tough games like yesterday. I still love the kid. I know his receivers sucked balls based off the fact that they dropped those passes. I know his old line sucked balls because they couldn't protect him when it mattered most. But QB1, he handles the ball every snap. And when your team is outscored 13-3 in the fourth quarter, at least a little bit of the blame has to be directed towards the quarterback. But I digress, folks. That's my Niners take on the day. Hopefully, you did not lose money in the process of betting on that game, but you could have bet with BetOnline. They have every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. And if you think you know your stuff, if you consider yourself an expert, get in on their $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. And when the game is over, kick back, put your feet up, pour yourself a stiff one, light them up if you got them, create that casino ambiance, and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. I have the link in the chat. If anyone wants to jump on, Damian LaRoche, I haven't seen you for a live show in a little while. Damian is what we call a Golden Dazer. That's the name of the hardcore fans of this program. And memberships, I think $2.99. And the reason why you pay for that membership is because I will pay attention to every single one of your posts. I will highlight all your posts on the show. Damian writes that he had a nightmare that Steve Kerr played Jonathan Kuminga only 17 minutes and Moses Moody only 3 minutes. Yeah, the Moody part of it bears, I think, even more realism than the Kaminga part of it. Buddy Hield couldn't hit a shot all game. Damian, you just kept yelling for Moody to be put in the game. That's it. That's a horrible dream. I apologize. And Damian, I absolutely missed you as well. Great to have you back. And that's an awful dream. I'm happy you're awake. I'm happy the dream is over. Vivid, gnarly dreams like that are not fun. D57 in the chat. What is up? You're saying this is a $70 million year for Jonathan Kuminga, referencing his contract situation. And we're going to get to that in just a second, because Jonathan Kuminga was recently a guest of Tim Kawakami's podcast. And I didn't know this until actually today. And again, I don't keep track of what media folks are doing. And in the same way, I doubt they're paying much attention to what I'm doing. But I didn't realize that TK had left The Athletic. I don't know if he left. I don't know if they shit-canned him. Whatever the reasoning is, he's now with a news publication called the San Francisco Standard. This is a news organization that originated in 2021. You have some billionaire philanthropist. Forgot his name. I'm guessing some techie launched the thing. I hope they make it. Competition is healthy, and that includes the news industry. And so anyways, TK is writing for them now. So I didn't even know they were a thing. I never heard of the San Francisco Standard until today. So anyways, TK recently sat down with Jonathan Kuminga at Chase Center. The players are in town right now, at least most of them. I know Stephen Curry was spotted in Vegas, and he could have just taken a quick flight out there and then came back to watch his Carolina Panthers pull off the upset to beat the Vegas Raiders. But the players are back. The coaches are at a retreat right now. Basketball is just around the corner. And so Tim Kawakami had a chance to sit down with Kaminga in the media room. This is a little room at Chase Center where all of us schleps, myself included, that's where we hang out and eat. I actually hang out in this room most of the game because the media seats, to me, do not give me as good of a view as a TV set. So when the games are going on, I'm in this media room just watching the games on the big screens. But apparently Kawakami sat down with Jonathan Kuminga in the same room and had an approximately 15-minute interview with him. And I pulled out some of the best sound bites from that because a few of the things said were interesting. And why don't we jump right into that? First up was his relationship with Steve Kerr. And look, this is clearly going to be the highlight of this interview, right? I mean, and I'm glad TK asked him that. And this goes back to, a tumultuous relationship last year where Kaminga, for the second time in his career, called Kerr out publicly. This was immediately following that disastrous Nuggets game where Kaminga didn't see a minute of action in the second half. Steve Kerr stuck with his aging veteran lineup that did win a championship a year and a half prior, but clearly they're not the same individuals. And they blew this massive lead. They lose to the Nuggets on a heartbreaking last shot by Nikola Jokic. And that precipitated Kaminga coming out through his proxy, his agent, complaining about the lack of playing time. Moses Moody also complained, but his gripes were muddled in the noise that was Kaminga being upset. And Kerr heard him out. And Kerr, I think on his part, will admit he failed in terms of communicating with Kaminga, making him aware of the fact that he has an open door policy, that Kaminga could have come to him sooner to fight for his minutes. Who knows? Maybe that was part of the plan. Or maybe I'm giving Kerr too much credit to elaborate and conjure a plan that complex. But regardless, Kaminga was asked about his current relationship with Steve Kerr. And here is what Kaminga had to say. Oh, actually, I need to share my screen first. That would help. So here is Jonathan Kuminga. There are no visuals attached with these clips. These are audio only. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will just see a box like you're seeing now with a timer on it and so forth. Anyways, here is Kaminga once again talking about his current relationship with his head coach, Steve Kerr.
No, me and him always, this one thing I learned just growing up. I feel like you wouldn't fight with anybody if you don't like them. I mean, I feel like me and Steve's relationship is good. That's why we don't fight. None of that. It's just he's always hard on me because he sees what I don't see, and he wants better for me. So, I'm excited to be coached under him again for my fourth year. and help him reach his gotta break a history. He needs like 39 more games to break the Warriors history.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. You're keeping track of that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on top of things a lot. So, I mean, I can't wait. I have been talking to him, just seeing where he's at, checking on him. He's been checking on me. And he's just excited, to have me here and to coach me again.
So that's good. Kaminga, I think, said all the right things. And the fact that Kaminga is even paying attention to Steve Kerr's pursuit of the all-time franchise record for most wins by a head coach. I think that's currently held by Don Nelson. As Kaminga mentioned, Steve Kerr is 39 wins away from that, should hopefully achieve that this year. If Steve Kerr does not break that record this season, the season itself has gone horribly wrong for him. But nonetheless, those are good words to come out of Jonathan Kuminga's mouth. He supports his coach. At least from what he said there, he feels that Steve Kerr values him. Damian LaRoche in the chat writing, if Steve Kerr was a professional psychic, he would be 10 cents a minute with a 1-star rating. And I do love Damian, what you say here, that it does take maturity, a lot of maturity for Jonathan Kuminga to hold back his real emotions. And look, let's really hope he's being genuine here, right? For all kidding aside, I really do hope that what he said there was genuine, that the relationship between him and Kerr is solid, that Kerr does in fact believe in him. I hope that's true. The next clip, it pertains to Jonathan Kuminga's three-point shooting. And this is a topic of consternation for a lot of Dub Nation, because the three-point shot is the one element of Kuminga's game that a lot of people feel is what's preventing him from breaking out to be a superstar, right? It also is potentially preventing him from playing his natural position, the three, the small forward position. And we're going to get into that as well, because Kuminga talked about what he feels is his natural spot on the court. But the three-point shot, 2 years ago, it was at 37.5%. That is good. You can live with that. Last year, it dropped to 32. He had a horrible start to the season, shooting the three. He's a career, I believe, 34% three-point shooter. My opinion on the matter is his shooting stroke is perfect. I've said this for years now. His shooting reminds me of the fictional movie character Jimmy Chitwood from the movie Hoosiers, where the form is not the issue. Touch is not the issue. I don't know if repetitions is all he needs. I don't know if he just went through it early in the season and maybe psychologically he was distracted because of the playing time issue. But regardless, the topic did come up. Kaminga has been working on that shot. And here is Kaminga talking about his three-point shot and how he feels about it going into this coming season.
Definitely confidence. And I just can't wait to go out there and just show people what I've been working on and stuff. I mean, it's always been my thing to just work on certain things and get better. And I feel like shooting threes, I got so much better shooting.
And again, I think he has beautiful touch on his shot. He's been working hard this summer, man. I mean, his buddy G, who I consider a friend, and I'm looking forward to seeing him this season in the media section, has been publishing a lot of videos on social media pertaining to Kuminga's workout regimen. And Jaleel Lindsay in the chat wholeheartedly agree with you that that the fact that Kuminga was aware of Steve Kerr's pursuit of the franchise coaching record, that awareness does mean something. I'm totally with you. I think that adds some credibility to how genuine Kuminga was in saying that. John Holmes, not the porn star, says if Kaminga can do 20 a night, if Pods can do 15 a night, and Curry does his normal thing, Trace Jackson Davis gets 10 to 12, Draymond Green plays his normal Hall of Fame level of defense and orchestrating an offense, that we're good. I agree. I totally agree. Again, this season is going to come down largely to how these young players step up this year. For Kaminga, year 4, for Podziemski, year 2. We'll see how that goes. Now, with Kaminga, going back to the sound clips I'm playing here right now, Jonathan Kuminga, was the topic of his natural position came up. And this has been brought up before because Steve Kerr has been attributed as saying that he views and looks at Kaminga as a Sean Marion type player, which I think is an insult. Kaminga grew up idolizing Kobe Bryant. That's who he likes to emulate his game from. And if Kaminga turns into Kobe, fantastic. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest players ever, and there's a lot of similarities between their game. Now, the small forward position is a topic of discussion here, because oftentimes you see Kaminga fitting that Sean Marion role of a stretch a stretch four on the court. You oftentimes see Kerr playing him at that power forward position. That is not his natural spot. Kaminga sees himself as much more of a three. And why don't we just hear from Kaminga himself talk about what he feels is his natural position. That's the small forward position. Here is Jonathan Kuminga.
I've always been a small forward my whole life. And I don't have a position at this point because I feel like I said, when I go back in the summer, I work on everything because I'm a small forward, but I could play any position. So I never just define myself as a small forward because I know I could play small forward. Been playing a small forward since I was little. It's just, like I said, just getting better and just growing more mentally, physically, toughness, and just knowing my role and knowing what I need to bring on the table.
Yeah, I know. And Kaminga again. I'm personally a strong advocate of letting players play their natural positions. I don't like forcing players out of where they're most comfortable. That usually is not a recipe for success. So I'm very curious to see if the three is where we end up seeing Kaminga play, or if he plays out of position at the four, where I don't think offensively it's an issue. And John Holmes bringing up in the chat the fact that by the end of the season, Kaminga started showing some self-awareness regarding his athleticism, regarding the fact that he is aware of how easily he could dominate the opposition. But I'm just not a fan personally of making him defend bigger players. Kaminga is just not physically suited to be bodying up against bigger individuals who fit more a natural 4 or 5 on the basketball court. So we'll see what happens there. Damian LaRoche in the chat. And again, he's a Golden Dazer. And you could have your chat comments featured regularly as well during our live shows. I also post for the Golden Dazers all of the exclusive interviews with prominent guests like George Karl, Gary St. Jean. All of those types of shows are also published 12 to 24 hours in advance for the Golden Dazers. So just some ideas of what the perks are to join the membership on YouTube. Damian LaRoche writes, is Kaminga for sure starting? I would like to think so, but I can't sit here and tell you with 100% certainty, because that's one of many things that I think all of us here who care about the Warriors are incredibly excited for, is what's to come. There hasn't been an offseason like this in a few years where there's been anticipation of something new. There's a lot of original players, new players. There's going to be new lineups. I am so ecstatic about what's to come. I haven't been excited for preseason basketball probably since 2021. And I'm definitely going live after every preseason game. I'm treating those like regular season affairs just because I want to see how some of these new players fit on this roster. But to answer your question, Damian, I do think I think it would be kind of crazy. Not kind of. It would be insane to not have him start. So, and yeah, him starting at the 5 or the 4, guarding bigger players, I don't want to see that. D57 in the chat asked if Kaminga plays a 3, what do you do with Wiggins? Put him at the 2, his natural position. I've been advocating for that for years now. Like the 2022 was an anomaly, seeing Wiggins play the 4, seeing that force that was out there, man. That is not Wiggins' natural spot. He is a shooting guard. Or John Holmes, as you write, he comes off as a 6th man. Knowing Steve Kerr, he's probably going to start, but I would like to see him as a shooting guard, honestly. And very curious to see what happens there. And the D57 brings up another great point, that what do you do with pods? These are all the questions, great questions, that we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks. I am going to be going to Media Day, folks, and I bought this little mic kit so I can hopefully nail some interviews that I'm going to play on future episodes. And then there's live playing, expressing an opinion I think a lot of people share, which is just that Kerr's coaching sucks. Maybe a little extreme, but yeah, I totally hear you at the same time. I'm not done with the Kaminga soundbite. So there's one more. This is the longest one, and this has to do with Kaminga's contract situation. And the way this is going, where Kaminga's at with the contract is this. He's entering year 4, and he's making the rookie scale salary for the year 4 player selected number 7 in the draft, is making. I don't have the number in front of me. I apologize. Can't remember if it's like 7 million or 11 million. He's not poor, but he's due for a contract extension. And if he doesn't get a contract extension, I forgot the date. I can't remember if it's October 27th. I apologize for not knowing that exact date, but it's somewhere in October next month, where if that extension is not agreed upon, then what happens is when next offseason begins, Kaminga is going to be in a position where he may be a restricted free agent. Other teams will be welcome to pursue him. And you may see a situation like what we saw in Cleveland with Okoro, I think his name is. I apologize if I mispronounce or butcher the name, where you had a player who was a restricted free agent, lottery pick, and but he had no interest from other teams, and his own team was not giving him an offer that he was happy with. And so the way the situation eventually evolved is he did get a 3-year deal somewhere for $30-something million. Kaminga is going to get a lot more money than that. But what we might have is a situation where Kaminga is a restricted free agent. He tests the market. The Warriors will offer a qualifying offer, which will be, I think, $11-12 million. And if Kaminga agrees to that qualifying offer, he will be a Warrior for a 5th season, and then he will be an unrestricted free agent. Now, if he as a restricted free agent next offseason, if some other team blows him away with an offer, let's say 4 years, $160 million. I don't know if they can go that high, but hypothetically speaking, the Warriors will have a chance to either match it or to lose him for nothing. So it's a little precarious waiting till next summer to offer him a deal. At the same time, if you don't give Kaminga that extension now, and Kaminga reportedly wants a max deal. Again, I don't trust most of these reports when it comes to these sorts of negotiations, but I've seen, some utterances of the Warriors wanting to offer him somewhere around $150 million as part of the extension. The point is the two sides are pretty far off. And the reason why I'm okay with letting Kaminga just play the season out, as we've all seen before, when a player is in a contract year, in most cases, not all, right? The other side of the coin is Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson last year was in a contract year. That did not bode well for him. He did not thrive in that situation. But Klay Thompson is also an aging player on the downside of his career, where Kaminga is in a totally different position. In most situations, when NBA players or professional athletes in general enter a contract year, you get the most production out of them that season because they're playing for that new deal. And if the Warriors' approach to this is earn your max contract this offseason or this season, if their approach is go show us that you deserve a max contract, and Kaminga does that, everyone's happy. If Kaminga has a season that's good but not great, let's say he puts up 18.6 rebounds a game this year, doesn't blow people away, but clearly shows he belongs in the NBA, then you might have an ugly situation next offseason where he might still want a max deal. And the Warriors might, respond and look at the numbers and say, JK, 18-6, that's on max dollars. That's 150. We'll give you 150 million. Won't give you 250 million. And then maybe he'll get a bigger offer in restricted free agency. Maybe he signs the offer that's tendered, which would then make him an unrestricted free agent after year 5. That's where Kaminga and the Warriors are right now. And so the question was asked to Jonathan Kuminga, what are your thoughts on this contract situation? Are you paying attention to some of your draft classmates, right? Like Franz Wagner is a perfect example. He got a max deal from the Orlando Magic. So Kuminga was asked that, and let's hear what Jonathan Kuminga has to say about his current contract situation with the Golden State Warriors.
I mean, I haven't really got into it that much. Things. I don't want to step my foot off track. I'm focusing on how can I be great? How can I help something? And, the better you play, the more you do things, everything's going to open up itself. So I'm not worried about things like that because I know who I am. I know myself. At the end of the day, it's just having an opportunity, a chance to go out there and prove and just wait for a moment. It's God's plan. So I'm not even tripping or thinking about it day to day. Whenever it happens, it's going to happen.
You've seen Scotty Barnes in your draft class, Franz Wagner drafted after you. you keep in touch with that? You're aware of all those things?
Everybody got their time when God's opened their doors. No, my door isn't open yet. Some point they're gonna be open. So obviously soon or anytime I know they're going to be open. So if you look at what other people getting or doing or having, it's gonna slow you down. So I'm not trying to be slowed down, trying to keep doing what I always do, you know? I'm always been a guy that never had my way easier since high school. So things like that don't faze me because at the end of the day, I know I always open my doors.
And this is a tough-minded kid. Again, I dedicated an entire episode to him. Go back into the archives if you want to watch or listen to that show. He grew up with nothing. He grew up watching some atrocities happening right in front of his eyes as a kid. That will harden you. That will make you humble. That will make you appreciate the little things of this world. And he is not a spoiled kid. He's clearly a very hardworking kid. And we'll see what happens in terms of year 4. But again, it's highly unlikely he's going to get that contract extension, particularly given the way the Warriors' current roster construction is set up. I don't know if the Warriors are ready to commit that kind of money starting next season. We shall see. And I do agree with Poetic Cube in the chat who writes the NBA careers are all about timing. That's life for you in general, right? So much of what you achieve and get, it's about timing, which is crazy. It's out of your control. And you add that this season is the perfect opportunity for Kaminga to make that leap into an all-star. Wholeheartedly agree. John Holmes brought up something very interesting in the chat, at least interesting to me, which is where is Moody in this roster? And that's the piece of this that I don't understand either. I have no clue where Moses Moody is going to fit, given all the other players on this team. Wouldn't surprise me if he got traded. And Moody himself has said it before, and he's going to say it again on this show. It sucks, the position that he's in. Right, Moses?
I mean, it sucks.
Yeah, it absolutely sucks. There is no comfort in knowing that you have no idea where you stand with your coach and your team. And it's really unfortunate. I just hope that he gets a good run. I also agree with Kimbo, who wrote in the chat, that some of these starting lineups and some of these rotations might be matchup based, where some nights you might see Buddy Hield get a good long run. Other nights you might see DeAnthony Melton get a good long run. Real quick regarding DeAnthony Melton, I was watching a clip the other day of a player who is grossly underrated in the Warriors' history, especially pertaining to the dynasty and what led up to that. And I'm referring to a player named Jared Jack. If you're a Warriors fan or if you follow the NBA for a long-term basis, you know exactly who I'm talking about. This is someone who, following the 2013 season, was 3rd in the NBA in 6th-man voting. He was instrumental in helping the Warriors upset the Nuggets in that first-round series. He was instrumental in helping the Warriors push the Spurs to 6 games in that conference semi-series. He was instrumental to helping Stephen Curry's development and growth. And if DeAnthony Melton, and this is a question I'm going to pose to Mike Dunleavy Jr. if I see him in Media Day and get a chance to ask any questions, is did he think of Jared Jack? I know he wasn't with the team then, but who knows, what his research has led. Who knows if he goes back or has gone back and watched, the early parts of the Warriors dynasty. But Jared Jack was fundamentally important to that team. And if DeAnthony Melton, who has a very similar physique to him, who has a very similar style of play to him, if DeAnthony Melton can be a Jared Jack and be kind of like a shorter pit bull type player for this team this year, they're stoked. We're stoked. And when I say we, I mean people who want the Warriors to succeed. So I'm fascinated by that. But I saw this clip the other day, reminding me of Jared Jack. His name is never mentioned in terms of the early years of the dynasty. And if DeAnthony Melton can fit that kind of role for this Warriors team, they're stoked. That is money well spent. But anything less than that, if the back thing pops up, then they might be in huge trouble. Nick J. Jack was an absolute baller. Steve White. Hello, he just said Cyrus in the chat, and I say, Steve, what's up? One last thing before we call it a day today so the NBA world lost a reporter, which I know is weird to say, but he has been instrumental over the last 10 plus years in terms of the growth of the game, the culture of the game. I mean, he has an adage coined after him, Wojbomb, and he left. He retired. Adrian Wojnarowski retired from ESPN to be a manager of the St. Bonaventure basketball program or something like that. The whole thing is bizarre. Until Dan Le Batard spent 10 minutes breaking down the behind-the-scenes content regarding what's going down at ESPN. And Steve, dude, this is a daily show. Steve in the chat writes, I'm late to the program. We're in the middle of the offseason still. There's nothing going on. You're fine. Look, here's the deal. Once the season starts, and I'm referring to preseason, we're going live after every game. So that is 7 games that you know exactly when and where we're going to be. 87 nights of the season. So I'm going to see you plenty live during those post-game shows when it actually matters. And I'm starting this during the preseason because this preseason is different than years past. There's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of young faces. And I have no clue how Steve Kerr is going to manage all those minutes, but we shall see. And one last thing, by the way, before I talk about this Woj thing, I almost forgot. I've been curious about the Warriors roster because there's been some conflicting reports regarding which players have guaranteed contracts. And this is a crazy business. And this is a crazy part of the business, which is that if you're not a top tier NBA player, if you are the Guy Santoses of the world, if you're the Lindy Waters of the world, you're not always getting guaranteed contracts. To put it in perspective for you, Guy Santos, when he signed his deal to be a part of the team last year, it was like a 3-year, $5 million and change contract. Only $1 million and change was actually guaranteed. Meaning, in theory, the Warriors could cut Guy Santos this year and move on without any ramifications. And the Lindy Waters, but at the same time, I don't think that's going to happen because Guy Santos is pivotal. This team is sorely lacking in size. I'm not saying Guy Santos solves that problem. He doesn't hurt the problem either. He can rebound. He's a really tough dude. Great rebounder. Also spaces the floor with a decent three-point shot. I don't think Guy Santos is going anywhere, even though his contract is not guaranteed. Lindy Waters III, on the other hand, that's a different story. I did not realize, and I didn't realize this because Spot Track, a website I routinely go to, even though at least one of the people behind that operation is a complete moron. I'll save that for another show if it's relevant. The point is, Spot Track, who I think a lot of people rely on when it comes to salaries, rosters, was possibly wrong when it came to Lindy Waters. On their website, they claim that Lindy Waters III has guaranteed money come to him this year. Anthony Slater of The Athletic reported otherwise, and a few other reporters picked up his story. So I actually reached out to the Warriors themselves just to find out what the answer is. And I did not get a full confirmation, but what I was told is that to the best of their knowledge, Lindy Waters III is not playing under a guaranteed deal, meaning the Warriors could cut him and, similar to Guy Santos, have zero ramifications. I bring this up because that subtly makes this picture a lot more clear in terms of what the team's going to do, possibly with Quinton Post. Slater, who I mentioned a moment ago, also reported recently that, at least from what he's heard, that the Warriors are aiming for Post to take one of the two-way spots that's currently held by Pat Spencer, Daquan Plowden, and Reese Beekman. But the other option is maybe he also gets Lindy Waters' spot. And the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking Lindy Waters is if this is true, that his contract is not guaranteed, I don't think he makes the team. I really don't. I think that roster spot's going to go to Quinton Post or maybe someone else who surprises him, right? On AC, I'm glad you brought this up. I did not mention Andrew Wiggins' father passing away. I didn't mention it because there isn't much to say other than rest in peace. I know he's a former player in the NBA. I don't know if he played in the ABA as well, or if it was like a professional league. But yeah, the Wiggins family, unfortunately, experiencing that last week. Terrible tragedy. So there you go, AC. Yeah, that sucks. It's just, and what really sucks about it, among a million reasons, is I didn't realize how young Andrew Wiggins' father was, Mitchell Robinson. He was only in his 60s. I mean, so I again, that family is very private. It's next to impossible to get information about them from them. But rest in peace to the Wiggins family, and to Mitchell Robinson. That is just a very sad story. But going back to the Warriors roster and who's getting in and who's getting out, Lindy Waters to me is probably not making this team. If we're being real, and if it is in fact true that his contract is not guaranteed. Now, Nick J saying Maple Jordan comeback player of the year. Watch, maybe. I hope so, man. I mean, the Andrew Wiggins from 2022, that was special. And I know a lot of people still cling to that hope that we'll see that again. I just haven't seen the evidence that indicates we are, but I hope we do. That's all I could say about that. Wojnarowski, I want to finish up on this note just because I do find it very interesting. Yes, Alvis Jopert in the chat asking, is Wiggins still on the team? He's still very much on the team. Yeah, he's still, I believe, the second highest paid player on the team after Stephen Curry. Woj, according to Dan Le Batard, was very vindictive and controlling. I did not know this. What Dan Le Batard confirmed on his show, and again, this is Dan Le Batard's words, not mine. But from my understanding, he's a credible dude. He doesn't make shit up. He doesn't lie. He's not a misinformation peddler. Maybe he has a grudge against his former network, ESPN. Take all that for what it's worth. But according to Dan Le Batard, Adrian Wojnarowski was a controlling and vindictive person, at least when it came to basketball coverage on the network, on ESPN. What Le Batard also apparently confirmed is that Woj and Shams did, in fact, have a rivalry. That was a real thing. And even though Shams once upon a time was Woj's disciple, that was not the case, is not the case anymore. There is some animus between the two. And so Adrian Wojnarowski, according to Dan Le Batard, got peeved and upset because Shams, his breaking news rival, was regularly a guest of Pat McAfee's, right? And Pat McAfee has stormed onto the national scene. His YouTube show blew up. ESPN's paying him a ton of money, and he's got a lot of power there. So did Woj. And Woj reportedly had the backing of ESPN's president, the guy calling all the shots at ESPN, an individual named where's his name here? I had it written down. James Pitaro. So James Pitaro is the president of ESPN, and Woj had his support. Unfortunately for Woj, Pat McAfee has the support of Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, one of the most powerful individuals on the planet. And Woj was really pissed that Shams was coming on his network regularly as a contributor for Pat McAfee. And what Woj learned through this process is that he is not the top dog at ESPN. Pat McAfee is the top dog at ESPN. And because Woj, and again, ego is a very real thing in this industry, right? This is a petty, shallow industry full of a lot of overrated, overhyped individuals. A lot of people think they're more important than they actually are. And I did not picture Woj fitting into this as being one of these individuals, but apparently, at least to a certain extent, according to Dan Le Batard, he was. And he didn't like the fact that he was no longer the most powerful person at the network, which a status he apparently enjoyed for a number of years. And he bailed. He was like, F this. If the reports are true, he was making $7 million a year, probably saved up more than enough. And he can now set off into the sunset managing his alma mater's basketball team. So I just thought it was a fascinating story on that front. And for us information gatherers, there is a huge void. I don't know who fills that, but one thing, and I'm done talking about this topic. One last thing. The day that Woj announced his retirement, it was interesting that Pat McAfee on that very day was already promoting Shams to be the person to take over that role. Whether that means him coming to ESPN, I don't know what the nuance or detail is of that, but I mean, his grave was not even fully buried yet. and McAfee's already promoting Sham. So I think what Libtard was saying, there was a lot of truth to that. And if you're a weirdo like me who loves, the back end dealings of media powerhouses struggling with one another, maybe that story interests you, but who knows? All right, I think we're done. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat. So Sophia Jones is going to join me tomorrow, as she does every Tuesday at 3 p.m. We've got a name for the show that she does with me. We're going to call the program V for Valkyrie. I don't know if the new graphics going to be ready in time for Sophia's show tomorrow, but the WNBA playoffs are in full swing. I never in my life, if 25 years ago, if someone told me, hey, someday you're going to be interested in the WNBA, I'd laugh right at their face. And I tell them, dude, you're on crack. There's no chance in hell I'm ever going to care about the WNBA. 25 years later, in the present time period that we're in, I'm in. I'm fascinated. Asia Wilson, dude, she dominates. I was watching actually on Sunday, the Las Vegas Aces opener where they beat the Seattle Storm. I'm in. And again, Sophia Jones, I defer to her on those shows in terms of teaching us about the WNBA, but at least until the NBA is fully revving and back on the scene, I'm in, man. So tomorrow, Sophia Jones and I are going to talk WNBA. We're going to talk Valkyries, and we're also going to start talking about matchups and more specifically rotations, even more specifically specific 5-man lineups that the Warriors are going to employ because they've got a funky roster with a lot of wings. And I don't know how people like Moses Moody are going to be getting time. I have no clue. But until then, who's in D57? Who's CC? Saying, Caitlin Clark shot like a brick last night. Yeah, so the Indiana Fever lost game 1 to the Connecticut Sun. I cannot believe I know all this stuff, but there you go. Alvin, you are the best. So are all of you out there. Thank you, as always, for joining us. There's some chat comments I just can't highlight, but you're making me laugh. We'll be back at this tomorrow at 3 p.m. as we do every week. The season's just around the corner, folks. We're almost there. This has been a rough month if you're a hoops junkie, man. Tap the arm. I need some hoops. Pump it in my veins. Give it to me. Otherwise, we're done. Back at this soon. Thanks again, as always. Bye-bye. Misty Wonder. Bye-bye.